Hey everyone, it's Angela and Dennis Bullock here. We are going to be facilitating this video for you for the good fight. We're going to be going over chapter 3, and hopefully some of you guys are familiar with us, but if not, we are co-leads with the Tillmans for Living Well Today. We are really good friends with them. They are some of our besties, and we love doing marriage ministry together with them. So we are kind of giving them a little break right now. We're jumping in for this chapter, and you will also see us a little later as the marriage small groups move forward. So first, we're going to give you a little background of what was discussed in chapter 2, and then we're going to hit chapter 3.
So again, chapter 2 was a really good one. It talked about the surprising good benefits of a good fight. And it really, I think Daniel talked about if we can have these good fights and cut the divorce rate in half.
That's a huge
that's
number.
a huge number.
Right.
I mean, cut it in half.
Right.
We have more
Because
happily
isn't the
married
divorce
people.
rate right now like 50% or something like
I
that?
think it fluctuates, and but I think
But
it
if
is.
we could flip flop that just by getting to know how to fight well,
I mean,
that's pretty great.
it's awesome. So in chapter 2, to discuss like 4 points. It discussed talking about a good fight keeps it real.
Keeps it authentic, keeps it 100. Yeah.
Keeps it 100. And I'll tell you, for us, when it was really real in those fights we had, it really helped us a lot during that particular time.
I think I've heard, I don't know if it was either Les and Leslie or another marriage like leader or people who write books, but I've heard it be said that the price for intimacy is conflict. And so kind of look at it like that, but it's such an amazing way to create authenticity. I can't say the word. How do you say the word?
Authenticity.
In your relationships. Go ahead.
So the next one is clarity. Clarity is so important because let me tell you, it's so funny how you could be saying the same thing at the same time. And all you need to do is just ask a question and you get the clarity that you need. In the book, it talks about clarity sheds light. And I'm telling you, it really illuminates. Once you ask that question, what did you mean by what you said? Well, what I meant by what I said is, and you'd be like, oh, I thought you meant something totally different.
And I think it brings, like, when you hear people say there's always another side to the story, there's always two sides of a story, that to me really brings this to light. Like getting clarity and getting on the same page, that's marriage, right?
And then the other 2 points I talked about: a fresh start, removing the smog of resentment. It clears the air. You ever been in the house and you just felt
and you
that
can
tension?
feel the tension.
It's
yeah.
like, oh, I got to deal with this type of stuff. Well, a good fight, this is one of the benefits of fresh start. And then of course the last one was security. And security, it actually talks about fortifying the promises that secure your relationship. And so we're going to jump into chapter 3. Now chapter 3 says what you're really fighting about.
Like, for real.
I mean,
like,
what are you really?
What are y'all really fighting about?
What's the real? What's the real?
What's the
issues?
real reason?
And we go through this
a lot. No, for real. Like me and him, like we can literally be fighting about the same thing and saying the same thing. Like we want to, like, but we're saying it completely different, and we will be going for it. And then I'll say, or he'll say, and we'll be like, pause. We're saying the same thing. So let's talk about it. So it started with giving the example of Everyone Loves Raymond.
Now, I'll be honest, when I read this chapter or we started reading it, it felt like a script. And
we was struggling.
We was like, so what I did is I actually went to YouTube and I actually watch the actual.
It was a fuzzy clip, but it was very helpful to understand.
I was reading, I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I was getting so, I was getting so frustrated.
We was getting frustrated, but the clip was really helpful.
Yeah, because now you have the acting and you can see the raising of the voice and everything like that. But what was so funny about that is that both the husband and wife were giving their perspectives of that particular fight, of the can opener, and it was so different. It was so funny.
And what I thought was funny was that, of course, in each perspective from the husband or wife, of course the husband was like, I didn't do anything, and he was innocent, and then the wife was really like, I was a perfect angel and he was tripping. And so it was very interesting to see it from both perspectives.
So it's interesting. I don't know if you guys have done that. I don't know if you kind of got in it with your
And
spouse.
you're like, it's all you, it ain't ever me.
Yeah, or you might be trying to talk to your buddy or your girlfriend, and the way
Mhm.
that you present
Spouse
your
is that
spouse,
they're always
it's
tripping.
like
Yeah.
gosh, I just couldn't believe he was tripping about a can opener, and then vice versa. So we're going to be talking about some insights, because here in this particular chapter, it didn't really give you 4 points like the last chapter. So we're going to really jump into some really good insights that was brought out throughout this whole entire chapter. And so one of the insights that they talked about was perception does not always determine reality. I want to say that one more time. Perception does not always determine reality, but it does often lead to conflict.
Right. So what you may be feeling or what you think might honestly not be true, but it can definitely lead to conflict. And I will say this too. I think for me in our own marriage, one of the things I say to myself is, Angie, could you be wrong? Just to help me get off of it. Cause sometimes I can be like a dog on a bone that I'm right, you know. And but to me that helps me, because I'm like, what if my perspective right now is wrong and I'm fighting for something that's not even correct? And then once I kind of bring it down some and go talk to him, then I'll be like, oh, sometimes I am right, but but a lot of times once I hear his perspective, it's like, oh, okay, and then we can come and get on the same page.
But the key thing is how you perceive what somebody is saying. So a lot of times that could be like, why are you wearing that?
Like in the
That
book,
might that might just throw
I thought that was so funny in the book, because she said at the part where she asked him about her outfit, she was literally like, what I heard was that my whole reputation was at stake. And I was like, wow, like she went really in deep on
like,
that.
oh my goodness. And that wasn't a reality. That wasn't a reality. He was consumed in an email. And even for us in the natural, my wife might say, well, how does this look? And I'm like, it looks good. And then for her, I said it looks
I didn't
good,
get the
but
response I wanted.
yeah,
Right.
and it didn't look good. So I'm going to change this to something else. And then I might say, why'd you change? Well, you said it just looked good. Yeah, I said it looked good, but it wasn't good enough.
Right. So understanding perception is vital to managing conflict. We need to understand, and that goes back to the communication piece and how big communication is in an argument or a disagreement, because one of the goals in marriage is to get on one accord and to stay on one accord. So when we're having a perception that's different from his, it's important for me to share. And mind you, we don't always get this right, y'all, but it's important for me to share with him that this is my perspective and this is how I saw it. And then for him, or how I even felt it, because women, a lot of times, it's like, this is how I felt. So it's important for me to hear his too, for us to get on the same page.
Yeah, and that's why going back to chapter 2 is talking about one of the benefits to a good fight is clarity. It's again asking questions. When you're asking questions, now you can see the perception I had was not necessarily what you thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're getting into, okay, this is the real thing. This is the reason why I said what I said, is because I really wasn't thinking about your outfit. I was really thinking about the score of the game.
Right.
Or
Or
whatever.
something different, or even maybe my insecurities, or a lot of times, especially when we first got married, if he used tone with me, it literally triggered me to being a little kid, a teenager, and being corrected by my parents. Right. So you never know, like, what is the full reason that is the perception that you are getting. So it also talked about, do you see what I see? Right. Going back to being on the same page. What one person perceives as reasonable or appropriate, another person will see it as unreasonable and inappropriate. And that is the nature of perception. It's unique to each person. So that's why it's so important for you to be able to listen and be willing to listen to what your spouse's perception of the situation is. And one of our great examples we wanted to share is that Angela tends to run late a lot.
Yeah,
it drives him crazy. I would try to get better, y'all. I swear, I'd be trying to get good.
And I try to ask myself the question, do you see time the way I see time? Because sometimes I see time as, being on time, as reasonable. and
I'll be trying
appropriate.
though, but this has
But
been
it seems
something we
like
have.
you see it unreasonable and inappropriate.
This is something we have dealt with our whole marriage. And I've tried, like, okay, I'm gonna set my outfit out the night before. I'm gonna make sure I get my makeup on, or I'm gonna like get up early, but I might sleep through my alarm, or I just move slow, y'all, or I'm not a morning person, I ain't had no coffee. I mean, there's all kind of reasons. But this is one of the things where it's like I want him to understand I am really trying, and this is something I really naturally struggle at.
It's been 22
And he's
years,
like,
y'all. It's been 22
but we only
years.
been living together for 19. So to me, in his mind, it's been 19 years, you should be better. And then I'm always upset.
Ever.
I'm always
Okay.
upset because I'm like, dude, give a woman a break. So
Okay, hold on. No, this is what she does. This is what she does. I say, because I have gave up. I gave up. And so I don't say anything. And then she says, well, how come you didn't tell me we're running late? I'm like, OMG. So again,
either he don't say nothing to me and let us be late, and then he mad at me, or I'm like, speak up and say something is better than saying nothing, right? So as you can see, I have my own perspective and he has his, and we're still trying to work that thing out.
Even though it's perspective, we're talking about how we perceive certain things. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next insight that they talked about. That was a great insight that they had. They said a great percentage of conflicts is not real conflicts at all, but rather it's a matter of misunderstanding based on perception. So again, it covered a lot of these things with perceptions, a lot of things that the
duck versus the rabbit.
Yeah.
Like I saw the rabbit.
I saw the duck.
He saw the duck. Yeah.
And then in the next image that they show, I actually saw it. I saw a dog.
I saw the tree.
Yeah,
and I said there might be a dog there, but I don't know.
I said it looked like a dog sniffing something, and then of course I read the bottom of it. I read the actual paragraph, and I was like, oh,
yeah. And the point is that sometimes you will have no clue about what your partner's perception is, and you don't see it, or maybe your partner or your spouse doesn't see it, or they don't see yours. And either way, it can lead to frustrations and tension. So many of our conflicts are not real differences at all. They are merely matters of misperceptions that lead to misunderstandings.
Yeah. So again, the next, we're going to wrap it on up. It talked about a study, and it said over 3,000 marriages. They did the study, and they literally broke it down to two particular fundamental things, which is crazy because we thinking sometimes conflict can be so complicated.
Right, and so vast. And like, how do you really, like, how do we learn how to communicate? How do we learn how to deal with conflict? But I love that this study literally took something that was so big and so vast and made it very literally two options or two items that we deal with when we're dealing with conflicts. And those two fundamental things is that either one person feels he or she is unjustly blamed or controlled because something that has nothing to do with the argument, or one partner feels neglected, and this manifests itself in someone thinking, you don't really care about me, or you're not as invested in this marriage as I am. And the way they worded it is either an argument or a disagreement or a conflict or a bad fight, or maybe something we're trying to change into a good fight. We either feel threatened or we either feel neglected. And I thought that was really interesting. I feel like that's a really big, powerful point, because after we read this chapter and because we've been having tidbits and stuff and little arguments and here and there this week, it made me see from my perspective, trying to think about his perspective, but also thinking about right now as I'm feeling like I need to be defensive or I feel a certain way. Why do I feel that way? Do I feel neglect, or do I feel like threatened? Like, what's going on? So to me, it's been very helpful this week.
Yeah, just going back to the time issue, is that when I feel like she's running late or we have somewhere to go, I feel like she don't care. And that's sometimes great. That's the conflict that arises on the inside, is that, okay, we need to be here on at this particular time. Now, sometimes it could be, again, I could probably extra, you know what I'm saying? You know, we got to be on time to the grocery store. Who needs to be on time to the grocery store? But what I'm saying is that sometimes you got other things that you want to do, especially and that becomes one of those perceptions of, you don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really care. So you here we have in our notes, you sense Whenever you feel your partner be uncaring, uncommitted, neglectful, selfish, and disengaged, this is some of the things that they have lumped, these two fundamental type of things. When we have what are we really fighting for, they lumped it up into these two fundamental complaints.
Right. And so that's the neglect part: uncaring, uncommitted, neglectful, selfish, or disengaged. The other side, the threatened part, is you feel your partner is being aggressive, demanding, overly controlling, critical, or too quick, or you feel like they're being very judgmental. And so to me, I just thought that that was just amazing, because you got to just see like what these things are rooted in. And that's what they were talking about too. A lot of times we're arguing about things that really aren't arguments. We're hitting the surface side. Like we're talking about like the picture, like when the couple was trying to hang up the picture, they were arguing about his books, but really she felt like her husband could be controlling. So sometimes we're discussing or arguing the thing that's on the surface, when we really need to talk about what that root cause is, or what that situation is.
Yeah, sometimes it could be a trigger. So the last time is the flip side of perception, and it's again the positive perception. So just like negative assumptions of your partners.
Oh, can I give an example really quick too?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Going back to the perception thing, I wanted to share this with some of the ladies or anybody, because this week, we're in a totally different state for those of you who don't know. And I have been feeling a little bit just like I miss my girls, I miss this, I miss that. And I was also sharing with him that I felt a little lonely. And he was like, "What? I ain't good enough for you?"
Oh,
What? I ain't good enough for you. And I was like, it's I was like, it's not that at all. I just, I'm a girl. I like to spend time with my girls, and I miss my girls, and da 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 da.
I miss my boys.
I know it's a little different though. So what happened is that I was like, "Lord, show me why I feel this way." And he was like, basically, let me take you back to some things that happened a long, like years and years and years ago. And so sometimes what I wanted to encourage everybody, when we do find what those root causes are, what those deep things are that are making us feel, whether it's insecure or frightened or aggressive or alone or whatever it may be, that we feel like our partner's not doing it, to just kind of shift it and pull out the scriptures, pull out the word, spend time with God. And the thing that God talked to me about was Deuteronomy 31:8, that the Lord himself goes before you and he will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. And that really helped me to focus on getting what I needed from him, from God. And it really helped me heal. So reason I wanted to backtrack and just talk about that, because once you get past the part of this is surface, now let's get down to the root. What do you do then? And it may be that you may need to have a conversation with somebody. You may need to forgive somebody. You may need counseling. You may need scriptures. But find out, once you get to that root cause, find out how to get help and see what you or your partner needs, so that you guys can get on one accord in that area. So just wanted to say that part.
So again, I love again this whole chapter and what it really talks about, and hopefully as you go through, as you read it, reread it, and really establish the things that often comes up, those conflicts or the way we perceive things, and when they come up, hopefully you remember this chapter and you won't disconnect or drift because you're so rooted in what you feel about what you see. Hopefully you have an awareness after this chapter to see that maybe I need to sit down and talk with my spouse and really kind of get to the root of some things. This is not really about the picture. What it's really about is this,
right,
that,
and maybe
whatever.
It's not about the finances, even though it could be. Or maybe it's not about the books, or maybe it's not about the dirty clothes, or maybe it's not about the job. Maybe it's about something deeper. And getting to the root of it is what's going to get you guys on the same page, which is going to help you grow and help you be able to do a good fight. And then lastly, as he was saying before, the good side of it, the flip side of it, having positive perception. So one of the notes we had was, just as your negative assumptions of our partner's motives, attitudes, and actions shape our sense of reality, our positive assumptions do absolutely the same thing. So your positive thinking, your positive assumptions about your spouse, thinking the best of them, thinking about things that are good, lovely, and a good report, are an amazing thing that you can do for your marriage.
Amen. Well, we're going to let y'all jump into your third session. Well, hopefully you have a wonderful discussion about it, hearing each other's perspectives on perception, and we hopefully have a wonderful time. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, we're going to turn it over to your leaders and you guys dive deep and you guys have a great, great small group tonight. See ya.
Peace.
Bye.